Did you know the legendary Randy Rhoads tragically died in a plane crash at just 25, leaving behind the iconic Crazy Train with Ozzy Osbourne? That unforgettable riff is the stuff of guitar dreams, and today we're going to dive into how you can master it. I'm going to break down the riffs and techniques so you can play it just like Randy Rhoads did in no time. Alright, I'm stoked to bring you a sweet guitar lesson on this one, how to play Crazy Train. This song's a rock anthem inspiring shredders everywhere with its epic energy. Alright, let's talk about why Crazy Train can feel like a wild ride for guitarists. The riffs, they're fast, technical, and have Randy's unique flair that trips up even seasoned players. From nailing those speedy pull-offs to keeping up with the driving 16th note rhythms, it's a beast to conquer. And don't get me started on getting that tone just right, it's a challenge to be sure. But I'm here to make it doable for you, so let's get going. Let's break this beast down into bite-sized pieces. We're going to tackle the main riff, those punchy chords, the solos, and the techniques that make this song pop. I'll show you each part step by step, nice and slow, so you can follow along and build some confidence. So whether it's the hammer-ons or the palm muting that's making it difficult for you, we'll make sure you've got the tools to rock this tune. So get your guitar set up and get ready to nail it. Alright, get your guitar tuned up to standard tuning. We're going to start with the 6th string here, which is an E. Next we've got an A here at the 5th string. And a D at the 4th string. And a G at the 3rd string. And a B at the 2nd string. And another E at the 1st string. You know the song. For the first 7 measures, there's all kinds of effects and build up to the tune. Then we get to measure 8, and I recommend you get yourself a kind of a messed up guitar pick, because I'm going to mess this up some more doing some pick slides like Randy. And what you do is you take the side of the pick, if you're normally holding it like this, you take the side here, and you drag it down the strings this way. And I'm going to do it on the E string and the A string. Pretty wild, right? Alright, now let's get into measures 9 and 10, which is the main intro riff. Go ahead and grab your nice pick now. We're done doing crazy pick slides. We're going to start this off on the E string at the 2nd fret, and this is going to be known as the pedal tone, because we're going to bounce off of this note several times as we go to the A string notes at the 4th fret and 5th fret in between the pedal tones. And I'm going to keep this on a clean channel on my guitar right now so you can hear me talking over it, and then we'll rock out when we start to do the play along together. So starting it off here, we're going to do 2 notes on the 6th string, and you can do down, down if you'd like for the time being, and then we're going to go to the 4th fret of the A string, back to our pedal tone, then to the 5th fret of the A string, and back to our pedal tone, and then one more time to the 4th fret of the A string, and back to the pedal tone. So here it is slowly. Alright, considering this is the most iconic riff of the song, I want to do this one measure at a time instead of combining this, so I can make sure that you get this right if you're struggling with getting the tempo and the rhythm correct on this. So follow along with me at 50% of the goal tempo. Now for measure 10, let's start on the 2nd fret of the A string, using that as our pedal tone as we bounce off of the E string notes at the 5th fret, 4th fret, and 5th fret. And then the second time we go through this, we'll do the same thing as we bounce off of here to the 5th fret, 4th fret, but then to the open 6th string. Let me demonstrate that slowly. You've got a couple of options with the picking pattern on this. Notice I did some alternate picking in there, but if it's easier for you to just do all down strokes, just do that. Down, 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 down. But if you want to follow me on this, in this section in particular, I like to do alternate picking, so I would start it off on a downstroke, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So you choose which one's best for you. Alright, get ready. Now follow me along on measure 10 at 50% of the goal tempo. Alright, now that you're warmed up, let's put together 9 and 10 and start off at 50% of the goal tempo and gradually increase to 60% and then 70% of the goal tempo. Follow along now. Alright, pause the video here if you need to get some more practice on this riff. Rewind it and go through that sequence again until you've got it up to a reasonable tempo. Okay, moving forward with the song, those two measures you just learned will be played a total of 3 times, and then on the 4th time through we're going to make a couple of changes. Let me show you those. Measure 15 is the same as measure 9 except for the last beat. So let me show you the change here. We're going to do the same thing as before. And on beat 4, instead of going to the A string and then back to the E string, we're going to stay on the A string and pull off to the 2nd fret of the A string. Let me do that slowly for you. And for those of you that don't know, a pull off is where you pick the string with this finger while leaving this one planted, pulling it towards the floor. On to measure 16 now. We're going to use 2 chords for this. They're both half notes, meaning we're going to hold them for 2 beats each. And this first one we're going to be at the 3rd string at the 2nd fret. That's an A note. And then we'll be at the 3rd fret of the 2nd string on the D note here. And I'm going to use my ring finger. You may know this as the shape of a D chord if you had that there, but he's not using that note. So we're just going to be strumming the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string only for this. This next chord is a B4 power chord, and what you do is just bar your index finger at the 5th string at the 2nd fret, holding down those 2 notes at the 5th string and the 4th string. I'm going to bar those, and then with my ring finger I'm going to be at the 4th fret of the 3rd string, and my pinky I'm going to be at the 5th fret of the 2nd string. And again, we're just going to strum through the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Alright, follow along now. Let's play measures 15 and 16 together at 50% of the goal tempo, 60, and then 70% of the goal tempo. get ready to play all of Riff A, which is measures 9 through 16 at 50% of the goal tempo, then 60, then 70% of the goal tempo. That entire section is known as Riff A. If you need some more practice on that, pause the video and go back and go over it again. Now, let's move into Riff B. This is going to be the section where we're using some palm muting on the open A string between chords. Let's get started. Starting off Riff B at measure 17, you're going to want to practice alternate picking on the open A string with palm muting. And that means you put your palm on the strings right where they come out of the saddle here to give it a nice muted sound, and you'll go down, up on the A string. For measures 17 and 18, there's 4 chords we're going to use between the palm muted A notes. So let's start it off here with this A major triad at the 7th fret of the D string and the 6th fret of the G string and the 5th fret of the B string. Then we're going to shift down to an E major triad, which is the 6th fret of the D string, 4th fret of the G string, and 5th fret of the B string. Now move this same shape down 2 frets. That's a D major triad with our 4th fret of the D string, 2nd fret of the G, and 3rd fret of the B string. Then we'll shift to a bar chord. I'm going to bar the 2nd fret at the 4th string down, and we'll pick the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. Alright, once again. Between each of those chords, we're going to do alternate picking on the A string. The first time gets 3, and then it's always 4 after that. So watch this here slowly. And at the end, we'll add this 4th fret of the E string and the open A string. Measure 19 and 20 are so similar to 17 and 18. Let's combine them now and just go over the differences. So measure 19, instead of playing the A major triad here like we did in measure 17, you'll play the A bar chord. That's the only change for measure 19 to 17. Those are the same. Otherwise, you go to the E triad just like before. Then in measure 20, we'll go to the D major triad just like before. And also the A bar chord there. The only change here is at the end of this. We've got this pull-off lick that starts at the 4th fret of the G string, and we'll pull off to the 2nd fret, to the open string with that index finger, and then you do the same thing on the D string and the A string. It's time for the Riff B play along, so get ready. We're going to start it off at 50% of the goal tempo, 60, and then 70% of the goal tempo. Follow along with me. The first two measures of Riff B are used throughout the verse, but at the end of the verse it measures 35 and 36, there's a change. Measure 35 and 36 uses a similar concept to Riff B. There's 4 chords being used and 2 notes being played between each of the 4 chords. So let's go over the 4 chords first. We're going to start it off with this A power chord here. That's the 7th fret of the D string, 9th fret of the G string, and 10th fret of the B string. Then I'm going to move up from here to the A string at the 7th fret and the 9th fret of the D and 9th fret of the G string for an E power chord there. And we're going to jump down to this D-shaped power chord that we did at the beginning of the song. It looked like a D chord, but we're only going to play the inner 4 strings for this. And then onto the A5 bar chord, which we've done before. Once again. Now in between each of the 4 chords there's 2 palm muted notes. We're going to start the first group off with the open A string to the 9th fret of the E string. Then we're going to go to the open A string to the 7th fret of the A string. Then the open E string to the 2nd fret of the E string. Then the 2nd fret of the E string to the 4th fret of the E string. So I know that may seem kind of weird, but let's combine it now with the chords. And at the end of that he does a crazy scrape again down the strings, but I don't want to mess up my good pick. But if your pick's already roughed up, feel free to do the pick slides on this. But what I'd like to do now is a play along of the last 4 measures of the verse, 33 through 36. Let's start it off at 50% of the goal tempo, then 60, then 70% of the goal tempo. Follow along with me. Pause the video now if you need to get some more practice on that lick, rewind it and go over it a few more times. But now we're going to get into the chorus, and I'd like to go over this in 6 measures as a group because there's a lot of power chords with just a couple little tidbits in between. Alright, at measure 37 we're going to be using an F-sharp 5 power chord. That's the 2nd fret of the E string and 4th fret of the A string. And that's going to be used quite a bit through this, so make note of that. We're going to pick that, then to the open E string, and back to that chord, and then 2 more times on that chord before we jump over to the D5 power chord here at the 5th fret, 7th fret, and 7th fret of the D and G string there. And then at the end of that, we're going to do natural harmonics. So for those of you that don't know how to do that, I'm going to barely touch the string right over top of the fret marker here at the 7th fret and play the D and G string like that. And I like to use my pinky for that when we get into the song. Measure 39 is almost the same as 37 except for we changed the chord at the end. So we'll still use the F#5 power chord. But now we'll change the chord to that D chord that we've been doing throughout up to this point. And then we'll do an open D twice to the 4th fret of the A string, pull off to the 2nd fret. So here's measures 39 and 40 once again. For measures 41 and 42, we're going to be using the A5 bar chord we've been using up to this point in the song, but we're not going to pick the B string when we strum it this time. So just strum the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string 3 times. And we'll go to the 4th fret and 2nd fret of the E string here, the 6th string. Then we're going to go to this E minor chord, but we're going to try and mute the G string with our middle finger. So if you don't know that already, we're at the 2nd fret of the A string and 2nd fret of the D string, and then try and kill the G string in this case with your middle finger. And we're going to strum that twice. Then to the open E and the 4th fret of the E. So once again. It's time now for a practice play along of measures 37 through 42. That's 6 measures of the chorus. Follow along with me at 50% of the goal tempo, 60, and then 70% of the goal tempo. Pause the video if you need some more practice on those 6 measures, rewind it and go over it a few more times. We haven't finished the chorus yet though, we've got to get into a lead lick right now, which is going to be a little bit challenging. Measure 43 starts off our lead with a G string at the 4th fret, full step bend. I'm going to use 3 fingers to get leverage on that. And I'm going to go to the B and E string at the 2nd fret. Now I'm going to do a pull off on the B string from 5 to 2 and 3 to 2. So just those 2 beats one more time. Now to beat 3, I'm going to go to the 5th fret of the G string, back to the 2nd fret of the B string, and back to the G string for a pull off of 5, 4, 2. To the D string at the 4th fret, back to the 2nd fret of the G string, and back to the 4th fret of the D string. 44 continues our lead at the D string at the 2nd fret, and I'm going to go to the 4th fret on the A string. And we're going to do that twice. Again, 2nd fret to the 4th fret. And we're going to do a trill, which is a pull-off hammer-on from 3 to 2 on the A string, and I'm going to do that 4 times total, then to the open A. Notice I only picked that once. Watch this measure one more time. As you know, the leads for this song can be fairly difficult, so for the play along, I'm only going to take it through at 50% of the goal tempo 4 times through. Follow along with me. Alright, work that lead up to tempo on your own. Now we've got 2 more measures left in this chorus. Let's cover it. Alright, measures 45 and 46 is pretty straightforward. We've got that A5 power chord again. Just those 3 strings, the 5th string, 4th string, and 3rd string. And then we're going to go to the 4th fret on the E string, 2nd fret on the E string, to an E major chord this time, which is the 2nd fret of the A string, 2nd fret of the D string, and 1st fret of the 3rd string. Strum all 6. Then go to the 6th string at the 4th fret 2 times to the open E. Alright, again, those 2 measures. For Riff C, we've got 4 measures, and they're very similar to the chorus using that F♯5 power chord again. Let's check it out. Alright, let's go over the 4 measures of Riff C, starting at measure 47. We're going to be doing that F♯5 power chord again. Exactly like the chorus with the open E back to the power chord, except for this time we're going to do a couple of harmonics at the 7th fret at the G string and the D string, and then to the 2nd fret and 4th fret of the E string to an A5 power chord. Let me go over that measure 47 one more time. I'll probably use my pinky for that. Alright, now let's go into measure 48 because it's descending that pattern. We're going to go to the 4th fret, this time on the E string, to the 2nd fret, then to an E5 power chord, which is the 2nd fret of the 5th string and the 4th string, and I'm going to bar that. Then we're going to go back to the 2nd fret and to the 4th fret. Alright, so let's go over those 2 measures, 47 and 48. Measure 49 is very similar to 47, except for the harmonics slightly different. So we started off with the F♯5 power chord with the open E string again, and back to the power chord. But the harmonic is slightly weird this time. We're going to go to 2.4 range, right above 2 on the E string, which will be hard to hear on this clean sound, and the 4th fret of the A string, so both at the same time. And you'll strum that twice, then to the 2nd fret of the E string, and open E to the D power chord, then back to that E major chord that we used a few measures ago, then to the open E on the 6th string, 2nd fret, and 4th fret. Alright, let me run through that one more time. Here we go. Alright, now it's time for your play along of Riff C. Let's start it off at 50% of our goal tempo, then 60, and then 70% of our goal tempo. video if you need to get some more practice in on section C. Rewind it and go over it a few more times. We're going to move on to Riff B, which you already learned, but there is a couple of minor changes. There's 4 chords, as you may recall, and the second and the third chord have an alteration. Let me show you that now. In measure 51, but the second chord is going to still be the same, but you'll add this pinky at the 7th fret of the E string. And strum 4 strings now. And the same thing goes for the D chord. As you shift down 2 frets, we'll have that pinky now on the 5th fret. And the A5 remains the same. In this section of the song, you'll use those chords entirely now through verse 2. You've already learned the chorus riff, but for chorus 2, at 76 through 78, there's a couple of changes. Let's take a look. In measure 76, towards the end of the second chorus, this is a real simple change. As we come out of that E minor chord where we're killing the G string, we'll strum that twice. But instead of going 4-4-0 on the E string, you'll go 0-4-4. So one minor change there. And now we're going to go into the lead, which is 2 measures through 77 and 78. Measures 77 and 78, we've got a second lead in the tune now, and this is like a chromatic walk-up, so I'm going to look at the shape of this more than anything else to get this going quickly. So if you look here, we've got the first string at the 9th fret, pulling off to the 5th fret, to the second string at the 7th fret. Pick, pull, pick. I'm going to do an upstroke and a downstroke. Pick, up, pull off, downstroke on the second string. Now the trick to this is I'm just going to shift this pattern up 1 fret. So I'll do this first one again. Now shift everything up 1 fret to the 10th fret, 6, 8. Then I'll shift it up again, 11, 7, 9. And now the pattern's going to change slightly. I'm going to move my index finger over to the 8, and I'll do 11, 8, 9. Then I'll shift that pattern up 1 fret, 12, 9, 10. I'll shift that pattern up 1 fret again, 13, 10, 11, again, shift up, 14, 11, 12, again, shift up, 15, 12, 13, shift up again, 16, 13, 14, shift up again, 17, 14, 15, and shift up one more time to 18 and 15. Slowly, one more time. Notice I sped up on those little triplet groups. There's 3 of those, and you have to play those a little quicker than the other ones. Alright, play along with me now on this lead, measure 77 and 78. Let's go through it 4 times at 50% of the goal tempo. Alright, after that we'll finish the chorus the same way we did on the first chorus, and then we'll go into Riff C, which is exactly the same also, and then we're coming into the bridge now, so let's take a look. The bridge section at measure 85 is comprised mostly of power chords, so I'm going to run through this rather quickly, but what I'm going to do is go over just the power chords we're going to use, and then we'll come back around and add those little couple pairs of notes that he adds in between those. So starting off on the F-sharp 5 power chord, then we'll go to our A5, which you know from previous sections. To E5 is going to be just up a string, so we'll play the top or bottom 3 strings with the 2nd fret barred here at the 5th and 4th string. Strum that twice. Then back to F-sharp 5 twice. Now I'm going to take this same power chord shape up the neck to the A string at the 5th fret, 7th fret, and 7th fret here. Twice there. Shift up to the 7th fret here and the 9th fret and 9th fret here, twice. Shift up again 2 frets to the 9th fret, 11 and 11 here, twice. Then go back to the A5 here, E5, and jump way up to the 9th fret of the A string here, 11 and 11, twice. And the last 2 power chords we've got here are 5 and 7 and 7, 7 and 9 and 9. So follow the tabs along with me on this to get this one together. But we're going to add a couple of notes between those power chords now. So starting off back at the beginning, we've got that F sharp 5. Slide down and rest to the A5. We're going to add two notes here, the open A, palm muted, to the 4th fret, 6th string, palm muted. Now your E5. 6th string, 2nd fret, palm mute, open palm mute. Back to the F sharp 5. Now as we jump up the neck here, we're going to play these two chords at the 5th and 7th fret and 7th fret with two dead strums in between, which means I just barely touch the strings with this hand here and strum that as a percussive effect. Then to the 7, 9, and 9. The same percussive effect twice here. To the 9 and 11, 11. Back to the A5. Open A, palm mute. E, 4th fret, palm mute. E5 twice. To the 2nd fret, palm mute of the E string. Open, palm mute, E string. And back to the 9th, 11th, and 11th here on the A string. The last two chords, jump down to 5, 7, and 7. And up to 7, 9, 9. Get ready to play along with the bridge section now, 85 to measure 92. Let's start it off at 50% of our goal tempo, then 60, then 70% of our goal tempo. Into the guitar solo now at measure 93, which can be quite challenging. So I'm going to break this down into sections for you. On measure 93, we're going to be doing two-hand tapping. I'm going to tap at the 14th fret of the B string and pull off to the 10th fret. And then I'm going to do that again. Tap at the 14, pull off to 10. Then I'm going to pull the 10 off to 7, and then hammer back to 10. That's a sextuplet group, so keep an eye on these groupings, and that'll make it a little bit easier. So it would look like this. And just repeat that. So you want to practice that technique if you don't have that down already, because then we're going to shift to 15 on the B string after doing it 4 times at the 14th fret. At measure 95, we're going to do some hammer pulls on the B string at the 9th fret to the 12th fret, and then we're going to shift down to the 7th fret and 10th fret and do the same thing there. So that would look like this. On measure 96, we're going to grab the 9th fret of the G string and bend full and release, then go to the 10th fret of the B string and back to the 9th fret of the G string and bend full. All right, play along with me. Let's try measures 93 through 96 at 50% of the goal tempo. Let's Let's start this next section at measure 97 at the 17th fret of the high E string here, and we're going to walk down to 16 and 14 there. To 17 on the B string and bend full. Then reverse that, back up to 14, 16, 17 on the E string. And bend 17 full. Measure 99's got a bit of a complicated walk down. I'm going to take you through slowly. Let's start on 14, 17, 14 on the first string, the high E here, hammer pull. To the second string at 17, back to the first string at 14. Then we're going to go to the second string again and go 17, 15, 14, pull off. 2 pull-offs in a row. Back to 15, pull off to 14. 16 on the third string, back to 14 on the B string, back to 16 on the third string, pull off to 14, and then do a full 16 fret bend. And as we go into the next measure, I'm going to grab that 17th fret of the B string with my pinky and release the 16th to 14. That's where I want to stop that motif. So let me walk you through that again slowly. Alright, play along with me now on 97 through 100. Let's leave off the last beat of 100 though, and we'll try this at 50% of the goal tempo. At the end of measure 100, I skipped the last beat, and that's because I consider it part of the next section. It's really a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs. So let's start it on the third string at the 14th fret, hammer to the 16th, then the 14 to the 17 on the B string, and then we'll do the same thing on the E string, but a bunch of times. Now, one way I like to keep track of this is to count those 16th notes. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, and shift to 16 and 19. 4 E and a, then I'll shift to 21 and 17 and do the same thing. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, back to 16 and 19. 4 E and a, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Then at 104, I'm going to do the big bend, a full and release. 17 on the E string, back to 17, full on the B string. Play along with me now. Let's take it from the end of measure 100 at the 4th beat all the way to measure 104 at the end of the 3rd beat. I'm going to start this next section at the end of measure 104 on the end of beat 3. We're going to start on the 15th fret to the 14th fret of the B string, and to the 16th fret of the G string and 14th fret. Then we've got this little triplet group scenario happening here where we're going to go to the D string and pull off 16 and 14, to 16 on the A string, and back up to the G string at 14, and then repeat that 3 more times. We're going to go to this hammer-on trill, 13 and 14 of the G string, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 16th fret. Play along with me now on this section at the end of 104 on the end of 3 to the end of measure 106 at 50% of the goal tempo. last section here at measure 107. This is like a little diatonic run here that he's using at the 11th fret of the E string and 12th fret and 14. It's 3 notes per string. So I'm going to do down, up, down on 11, 12, 14. I'm going to do the same thing on the next string. Down, up, down. And the next string is going to be a hammer-on those notes. 11, 12, 14. Hammer those two. Then shift over to 13, 14, 16 and hammer those. G string, same thing, 13, 14, 16, then jump to 14 and 17 on the B string, then to 14 on the E string and back to 17 on the B string, slide to 19, then go to the E string and do 17, 19 with a full bend, and another full bend, and back to 19 on the E string. At the end of that measure there, you'll notice there's a nice pick slide again, just like I showed you at the beginning of the song, but I don't want to mess up a bunch of picks doing that throughout the tutorial here. So let's go ahead and try this entire guitar solo now at 50% of the goal tempo together. Get ready. If you've made it this far, you're doing excellent. The next section is Riff A and another verse. We've already learned those riffs, so let's skip over that. We've got the last chorus coming up, which has a couple of changes in there and another new lead, which is just a short one, but let's go over these things. At measure 137 is the chorus riff again. We've already learned this, the F sharp 5 to the open E, back to the F sharp 5, 2 more times, then you jump over to the D5. The 5th fret and 7th frets on the D and G string. But here's the change I wanted to share with you. There's this harmonic walk up, these natural harmonics starting at the D string at the 5th fret. And I've seen somebody else do that starting at the 7th fret of the B string. And then those 5th fret across from the G string there. So whichever one you think is correct there would be fine. Or and then it goes back into the main riff. Alright, in typical Randy Rhoads fashion in this third chorus, he changed the lead up again on us. So let's start this off at the 16th fret of the G string with a full step bend. To the 14, 17 on the B string with a pull off to the 14 there, back to 17 of the G string with a full bend and release, and then we'll do the same kind of lick at 15, 18 on the B string now, and 18 on the G string, bend full, then to 16 at the B string and E string, and 19 at the B string, pull off to 16 with 19 full bend on the G string. Then shift up again to the 17s, B and E string, 20, 17 pull off, and a G string, 20 full bend. Then it'll be at 18 and 18 on the B and E string, and 21, pull off to 18, and then a pick scrape. And there you have it. We've covered the key techniques and tips to get you shredding Crazy Train like a pro. So keep practicing, stay patient, and most importantly, have a blast rocking out to this classic. And to all you guitar heroes, drop a comment below and let me know how you're doing with this song. If you've got any questions for me, fire away. And if you love this lesson, check out some of my other guitar tutorials like Mama I'm Coming Home and More Riffs to Conquer. So hit that subscribe button and I'll see you in one of these videos next.
Silent screams in heaven.